Rob and Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Good afternoon and welcome to your Wednesday edition of the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. A lot happening today, lots of hot button topics to talk about. Bruno's back, we love Bruno, but we also love these two men. We've got Benjamin Norris and David Robinson with us. Hello Ben, hello Robbo. Ben, are you having a good day?
Absolutely. Look at the size of my coffee. It's like the size of my head.
Have you just walked off the set of Friends, have you, Ben?
Yes. I was looking for some perk, so yes, Central Perk.
Ben is currently burning the candle at both ends of the day. It has been amazing he is with us. He's doing Ticker Jumpstart. He's doing the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. He did Eye on Big Brother last night. So, Ben, the question is, do you ever sleep?
No, because I'm doing TV Black Box with you this evening. So
Yes, you are.
And
You know, Ben,
just
you see me more than my wife does.
I know, and that's really upsetting news.
Lucky you. Yeah.
I don't think anyone's happy with that arrangement, Mr. McKnight.
Robbo, how are you doing on this fine day?
Oh, just tickety-boo. I am. I'm very well. Good to be with both of you boys, Amanda, of course. So, very excited to be here.
Fabulous to hear that. Well, there's lots to talk about in one issue. What? What happened there, Robbo?
No. I just heard Amanda go,
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot happening, including some breaking news this afternoon. And the ABC has announced major cuts as part of a 5-year strategy to cut $40 million over 5 years. 250 jobs are expected to be axed as part of the plans. ABC Comedy will be rebranded to focus on the arts, and the iconic 7:45 a.m. radio news bulletin will be axed. The broadcaster will put greater emphasis on its iView service. Robbo, we knew this was coming, but gee, this is going to hurt.
It's really going to hurt. It's going to hurt all of us. So obviously, our thoughts are with the people who will eventually lose their job from the ABC. The ABC is really, really important. And so for the Liberal coalition government has cut money from them for years. They really don't like the ABC, but all of us will hurt from this, and we all need to get behind the ABC as much as we can. It is a great service, and the media landscape in this country would be a very barren wasteland indeed if we didn't have the wonderful contributions that ABC make. The other thing as well is when there's a bushfire or a cyclone or anything like that, everyone turns to the ABC. They don't get any more funding for that, but they're the point of contact between government, emergency services, and the public. So, yeah, this is a really, really bad, sad day for everyone, not just the staff at the ABC.
Ben, what do you think? Does the government have to be held responsible for not funding the ABC sufficiently? There has been no effective rise for the ABC even to match inflation, so that means that they've actually had to cut. Or does the organisation just have to do better with the money it's got?
Well, like pretty much everything at the moment, everyone just needs to be doing it smarter and cheaper and faster and harder.
Yes.
And it's really upsetting to see what's happening with the ABC, especially seeing is that it does deliver a really strong balance to the other networks. You know, I think it might be a sign of my age. I turned 40 this year, but a majority of my friends really only watch ABC and SBS because they have streamed, they seem to have gone away from some of those mainstream networks like 7, 9 and 10. So look, it's disappointing news, but it'll be really interesting to see who survives in this landscape as these big changes are made.
Well, that's absolutely
right.
What?
It costs, in 2017, so 3 years ago, so it'll be up a little bit, it costs every Australian 19 cents a day for the ABC. I think it's a very small price to pay, and we could easily
it used
make
to
it
cost
25
us 8,
cents
Robbo.
or something like that.
It was 8 cents a day.
Well, yeah,
there's inflation.
Okay, yeah, in the 60s. In the 60s, it might have cost 8 cents a day. But I just think it's, it's really important, and this is
Yes, it is, but I think Ben raised a really good point here because every media company is doing it tough. And I do think, I've always thought there is some fat to be trimmed from the ABC, and I don't want to see people in the industry lose their jobs. That's the last thing I want. And Ben has more news about in entertainment today about more local jobs going in the media industry when we get down to entertainment. But the fact is that resources are finite. And I do think the ABC can do better with the money that it has. Do I want it stripped down to nothing? Absolutely not. But, you know, you look at its commercial rivals are fighting for survival right now in a weak advertising market. And I think there has to be some consideration to the fact that the ABC just can't get buckets and buckets of load of money when everyone is doing it tough. You know, we're seeing redundancies across all the networks. You know, 10 Daily got pulled. We did a story about that. There's axings at local news in Adelaide. You know, like there's so much happening in the media sector. The ABC cannot be in a bubble of its own. Surely, Robbo.
Yes, but it's valuable. I think
I agree.
The value
I
far
agree.
outweighs the cost of that. Look, I worked at the ABC for a while, and it runs on the smell of an oily rag anyway. So, you know, I'd rather see a Murdoch paper go down than the ABC.
But it's not either or, and that's a philosophical argument, and I don't think that has a place here because the Murdoch press actually does do a great job in exposing certain things, whether you like their slant and their views or not, right versus left, or the perceived right versus the perceived left of the ABC. Both organisations over the years have done brilliant jobs in exposing stories that wouldn't otherwise get revealed. So I don't want to see anything go down. I don't want to see papers close. I don't want to see the ABC go down. But what I do acknowledge here with the ABC is a need for to rethink the way they do things. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I certainly would like to see some extra funding. They've done it tough for a few years. They haven't had an injection of funds, but I really don't think it needs to be an either or, mate.
Alrighty.
Okay.
We both said our point, so yes.
Yeah. Interesting to know, and there's a press release that's just come through from the ABC, and I do believe I saw somewhere that the board has agreed to reduce their wages by 10%. That's a very good thing for them to do, and this we'll get across what's the information coming on, and we may have a bit more information in entertainment. We'll see how that goes and if there's any new developments. Meanwhile, the New South Wales government has ordered an investigation into secret courses being offered to early childhood teachers. The programs deal with queer thinking and living non-binary. Up to 30 teachers have already taken the course. One Nation leader, Mark Latham, has said he will introduce a private members' bill to ban the courses. You know, I think the three of us are going to agree that this is not a bad thing, that these courses are taking place. This is now turning into a political football, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Mark Latham's a moron and always has been. So, like, you know, whenever I see him in the media these days, I really just don't understand why we haven't banned him. Like, I just don't understand. It baffles me. Look, when it comes to LGBTI education in schools, I think there's always going to be some difficulty and a bit of a disconnect and people still trying to catch up with the lingo. So whilst I do think we have to be progressive and push teachers into, yes, learning and understanding education, you know, we've still got a fair way to go. So, look, I think that the LGBTI space is quite difficult. And I think that, you know, with so much pressure from the LGBTI community as well for the straight community and our allies to catch up and always be on top of things, I think it's doing a little bit of a disservice and still muddying the water a little bit. And that's coming from someone who's... You know,
in what way, mate?
Look, I think that the way in which the LGBTI community is, you know, evolving and like, you know, with our pronouns and the letters of the LGBTI, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing and a little bit overwhelming. And I feel that after the marriage equality debate happened, that a lot of people are like, come on, guys, we gave you something, we're trying to evolve. But I feel like there is a sense of shaming people who don't necessarily understand things as much.
Sure.
And that's why these educational tools need to be there, is to make sure that we are equipping the teachers that are teaching our children every day and not necessarily, they're not teaching them queer learnings. They're actually preparing themselves to understand more, and they're passing that learnings back to parents. So that's where it needs to happen. You know, and with Mark Latham, you know, I'd really like to take him to task on that because as far as I'm concerned, he's really only saying these sorts of things to get a headline. I don't necessarily think he has any understanding or care for the LGBTI community at all, and that's clearly reflected in this story.
I think you're right. And Robert, one of the things that gets me here is because the Daily Telegraph have made it a story, Mark Latham's brought it up, there's now a review going on into these courses and whether they fit the education's funding model. The fact is, I actually just cannot see an issue with teachers going and getting some extra training on how to deal with same-sex parents and also being able to talk to the other kids in the classroom about that and normalising it, because it should be normal. But we're at that point now where, to be honest though, I see kids today and it is just a fact of what's going on, but I just don't understand this mindset that it has to become a political football now. I cannot see the problem with this at all.
No, neither can I. Mark Latham made a comment that he saw it as indoctrinating 3 and 4 year olds.
What a crock of shit.
It's not even, it's not even based at them. It's literally just a support tool that's being offered to teachers, which I think is great. If you've got one gay kid and you kind of know how to handle that, then that's great. Doesn't that make it better? Or, the correct way when other kids might say, oh, why does little Johnnie have 2 mums or 2 dads? They're able to just give the facts in a trained, measured, mannered way. They're not sitting up in front of, the whiteboard and, talking about sex and talking about gay sex and all of that kind of crap. It's not doing that. It's a support. And for mine, I want our teachers to be supported in all ways. Maybe if you've got really obese kids or you've got diabetic kids, or you've got kids from broken homes. I want to see all of that training given to teachers. Yeah, I agree with Ben. Mark Latham's an idiot.
I think it is. He definitely is. Sorry, I know that we're just about to wrap up, but I just want to quickly say something, and this is coming from an LGBTI person as well. I'm so often confused about keeping up with the lingo and understanding people. I've actually got quite a few people that I keep as friends on Facebook that I talk to nearly every day, and that's because I find it fascinating about what they're going through, and that's, talking to young trans people, it's talking to people who are gender neutral, there's just so many avenues, and we just need to leave our minds open and stop being so fearful about it and letting the information wash over us. It's not that hard to do, to leave lines of communication open and continue to learn without being, scared or without being affected by a politician's fear factors.
Absolutely. And look, I think you make an interesting point too, that we can't have hardliners on either side, because that's where the danger is.
No.
All right, moving on. In the past few days, 7 police officers have been assaulted in New South Wales alone. One of those assaults happened in Riverwood in Sydney. Take a look.
Argues with officers
I don't need to. You're
after his brother was stopped for riding a motorised scooter on the footpath.
Step away now.
A 22-year-old is repeatedly warned to step away.
Give me one more warning to step away. Don't touch him, that's assault. Step away. Or what?
But he continues his tirade, turning his phone on the cops and streaming the encounter live on Facebook.
I'm telling you right now, this isn't hindering an investigation.
2 minutes into the confrontation and too many chances, police respond with force.
Mate, you're under arrest for hinder.
Zephyr Edwards is wrestled to the ground, but even then, he tries to fight it. It's hard to make out, but a female officer is allegedly kicked in the face and 2 male officers injured, all 3 from St George Station taken to hospital.
God, this annoys me. There is a general disrespect for the police here. But, Robbo, I wonder if the ongoing headlines of police doing the wrong thing, which should absolutely be called out, is leading to a lack of respect and leading to this type of abuse.
Oh, for sure. I think so. You could hear this guy saying, I can't breathe, which I just found, really offensive. Yeah, I think it is leading to it. It's almost like an uprising going against them, going, well, a few of you have done a bad thing, so, we're going to give none of you the respect. Really, really slippery slope, and I certainly hope that the full force of the law is brought down on this guy.
I do too. Do you see anything wrong here with how the police handled that situation, Ben?
No, not at all. But I mean, I've been talking about this for weeks now, and this has always been my problem is, the media positioning the police as the bad guy. And we've seen some very small amounts of footage being used in a way to scare us. And the media have been doing that to sell their organizations, and fair play to them, I guess. But at the end of the day, they are selling a narrative at the moment that the police are bad and the police are doing the wrong thing. And then you are getting situations like this where the youth are acting out. I mean, that particular situation and the footage that we saw just then told one story, but if you had edited what we just saw in a particular way, I guarantee you we would have thought differently. You know, if we would have only just caught the last part of that footage with that boy on the ground saying that he couldn't breathe and we didn't see the context, we would feel differently. So look, as I've always been saying, when it comes to these videos being put into the media, we need to open our minds and think about exactly what has gone on, and we can't just trust what we see with one shot of vision.
Well, that's why we always let videos go long on this show, so viewers can make up their own minds, and we don't just put everything down into a 5 or 10 second grab.
We really don't always have the luxury of that.
We can't play a 10-minute video. That 100%, we can't play a 10-minute video.
We don't have 10 minutes. We don't get 10 minutes. No one gets 10 minutes. What we're getting is the footage that gets sent to the media, and then we strip it offline. I'm not there. Rob's not there. You're not there. We didn't get the chance to be able to see it in a longer form. We always play the footage in the length and its entirety that we are given, and that is a luxury we have on a long form show like this. So I'm not saying it's us that's censoring it, but what I'm saying is the media putting this information out there, it's so easily taken out of context. So we can't just look at the vision that we get and buy the narrative just from what we see. We have to still think about it.
And look, we certainly do source a lot of articles for what we do, and we try to give a full picture, and that's why we have different voices on this show, so that we can look at everything from different angles. All right. Popular Australian lollies, Chicos and Redskins are set to be renamed. Nestle Australia has released a statement saying those names can be considered racist, and that doesn't fit with the company's values. But not everyone is happy, including Senator Matt Canavan, who said they were destroying Aussie brands, and if they don't want to market them, then give it to someone else who will. Ben, can you see why they would want to rename these products?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about these being offensive titles for confectionery for as long as I've been alive. Like I remember having that conversation with my grandfather when I was in my, in the 80s. Like, these products have been around for a very long time. The titles have been offensive for a really long time. Someone said to me today that the leading name for the Redskin will be Red Lolly. And to be honest with you, I know it sounds pretty stupid, but I'd still be happy to buy Redskin if they were called Red Lolly. And I'd probably start buying it more knowing that Nestle was bold enough to be able to acknowledge this, even though it's a bit late, and do the right thing and change its brand. I think Australians will actually support it. I don't think we'll see the end of these products just because they're being renamed.
Yeah, Robbo, I've got to say, I feel like I remember as a kid, there were actually Indians on the packaging of these lollies on the Redskins. So I really don't have a problem with this. This is one name change that makes sense to me. That I really, I'm all about not the cancel culture and all that kind of stuff. But on this one, I'm okay.
Yeah, me too, because newsflash, they're not going to taste any different. That's the most important thing. We're not going to change the recipe. We're not going to do anything like that. We're just going to update it to be with the times. I think it's fine.
Sorry.
I think it's good. I like what Ben said. It's a bold decision. It's a decision that's been around, should have been made a long time ago. And it's not the first time it's happened, remember. You used to be able to buy a little packet of cigarettes called fags.
Yes.
Even had a little red end of it. Then they changed them to fads, and that's fine. That's good. That's another name that at that time, no, that's, calling it fags is not a thing to do anymore. I think that this is a fine idea and good. And people who then fearmonger like Matt Canavan going, they're destroying Australian brands. We're not talking about changing the flag here, mate. We're updating it so it doesn't offend maybe even a minority of people. That's all we're doing.
Well, look,
get a grip.
This is an interesting point, but things get a little bit more complicated, though, in the United States, where Quaker Oats announced that it would be updating the name and design of its 130-year-old Aunt Jemima brand in recognition of the fact that its origins are based on a racial stereotype. There's just one issue here. The family of the actress you can see there does not want her taken off. They say her image is nothing to do with slavery or discrimination, and in fact, she made a lot of money from her image being used. Robbo, this is a curly one.
It is. Yeah. It is really hard, actually. So the racial slur they're talking about is that back in the day, white people would not give black people the name Mr. and Mrs. They just wouldn't. It was too much respect. So they gave them aunt and uncle. So I can get the reference to it there. But yeah, should we not be going to the person's family, like you said, the actress who said they don't mind. She made a lot of money. This is a tough one. I don't think it's as clear cut as Chicos and Redskins. Ben,
No, it certainly isn't.
Yeah, look, I think you're probably right. I didn't know that about them calling, they didn't want to offer them
Aunt and
respect, and that's what they were doing, calling them aunts and uncles. Like, it seems really bizarre. Look, I think it's just another one of those cases where it's the individual situation that needs to be looked at. Sure, let's put the magnifying glass over everything, but if we find out that the origins are not coming from a bad place, can't we just leave it the way that it is?
Agreed.
Well, Ben, that's
wholeheartedly agree on all that.
That's almost sense. You know what, boys? We have agreed on every topic so far. Red letter day. Doesn't that make boring TV? Let's see if we can mix things up a bit. And Mel Gibson, here we go. Mel Gibson has been sacked from his next film because of comments he made to Winona Ryder in the mid-90s. Ryder said that she was at a party where Gibson asked if she was an oven dodger, a reference to Jewish people who survived the Auschwitz concentration camp. At the same party, he allegedly asked a gay man if he would get AIDS now by talking to him. Ryder has spoken about this before, however, the story has now resurfaced. Netflix was quick to dump Gibson from an upcoming sequel to Chicken Run. I've got a problem here.
Oh, here we go.
Mel Gibson has been outed a long time ago as a racist. You're either doing business... This is Sonia Kruger all over again with the Muslim comments and the podcast.
Oh, well, be careful.
No, I mean that the comments she made on the Today Show, how the beauty podcast on Mamma Mia cancelled her from comments she made 4 years ago, even though they knew about them, and just because it came back into light during this whole Black Lives Matter movement. Mel Gibson is on video making anti-Semitic comments. This is not new information. What Winona Ryder said, she said years ago. So why was it okay for Netflix to hire him for a movie and then based on all this stuff from decades ago, suddenly go, Ben, no, we're not having you now. This reeks of just bullshit.
Yeah, but it's just bizarre. Like, I mean, Mel Gibson, I'm surprised that anyone's still hiring him. And I mean, I knew he was an anti-Semite years ago. And so, like, I've done away with watching his films. I used to love watching The Patriot when I was hungover. And there's nothing patriotic about that movie because Mel Gibson's a pig. So I think, what happens a lot of the time is with someone like Mel Gibson, because of their brand and their popularity, we seem to sometimes forget. And we sometimes do need to be reminded, because I don't believe for a second that man has changed his opinion. And I think that he is disgusting with the way in which he interacts with people. Has been, and always will be.
I actually have no problem with that. My issue is Netflix knew his history. Everybody knew his history.
But we forget.
No.
We forget.
You think Mel Gibson, you think that video of him at the cop car, you think that audio of him abusing his partner or wife, I can't remember what it was at the time. But the fact is, Netflix employed this guy knowing his history. And now, from a PR offensive, they go, oh, well, we're not going to hire him now. I just think, don't hire him in the first place. If that is your stance, knowing his history, Robbo, you don't hire him in the first place. This reeks of just BS to me that you would suddenly say, oh, well, we're going to not hire him now. That you've made your decision.
Yes. So the reports are still coming out as to whether he was actually fully into it. But you're right, though. So just based on this initial report here, it's something that we've seen a lot, in the past few years. You're right. We knew what he was. We knew how he has acted in the past. He's apologized. Just, don't hire him then. I hate this kind of... And also, he made the comments in 1995. Now, if we were all held up to every single thing that we've said, we'd all be... No one would work in the world. You can't tell me there isn't one person in this world that's always said the right thing and always, hasn't offended someone. You can't do that. He's apologized. It was a long time ago. If you don't want him in your movies anymore, then do not hire him.
100%. That's the key here. If you don't want him in the movies because of those previous comments, you have every right not to hire him. But he hasn't made new comments So why are we firing him now? You made your decision.
That's the
All
point.
right. Yeah.
There's no new comments. That's a really, really good point. There's no new comments here. It's just what we've had in the past. Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. Well, look, she's been elusive for decades, but now we might have finally seen a picture of the Loch Ness Monster. Okay, then, a tourist took the photo after seeing the water ripple, only to be surprised at the length of the animal. Let's have a look at it. Ooh, that's a big one. Amanda's having a go at me for doing the accent.
Yeah.
But
I should have known it would happen.
Robbo, do you think this could be Nessie?
It's a bloody big fish, whatever it is. It's a big one. I don't know that it is her. I understand that she always shies away from media. She never gives interviews or allows herself to be photographed. So I don't know. This might be a decoy.
Ben, are you a believer that Nessie exists?
No, not at all. It's bullshit. It's crazy. It's like when they're like, oh, there's panthers in Gippsland and Victoria, and then you look at the way that the photos have been distorted. It's like that's a cat. That's a person's house cat. Like it's been taken at a weird angle. That there, we've been told, this image that we just saw, that is proven to be a staged photo of a tiny little inflatable. That to me looks like a rock. I don't even think that looks like Loch Ness Monster from what my imagination tells me Loch Ness Monster should look like. But at the end of the day, as long as a myth like this exists, people are always going to look for it, and I enjoy the fun and mysticism in that. But that certainly doesn't mean I'm ever going to believe that. Like, Loch Ness could literally pop out of the river and ask me for a lighter for its cigarette, and I still wouldn't believe it existed.
So you wouldn't believe the evidence right in front of your eyes?
No, I'd still be like, oh, what have I had? Am I on acid? What's going on? Like, this is ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Right,
No such thing as a Loch Ness Monster.
Okay, all right. Well, you know what? We've talked the Loch Ness Monster, but it's time to get some real news. And for that, we go to the Ticker newsroom with Aaron Young.
Rob, thanks. Let's check the news headlines today from Ticker. And Australian shares have risen as markets are buoyed by stronger US economic data. Another record high on the Nasdaq, which gained 1.4 cents and also has not fallen twice so far since June. BlackRock CEO, though, says the full extent of coronavirus pandemic on the US economy's smaller companies remains unclear, even as cities now begin to reopen. The Labor leader, Anthony Albanese, has urged the Prime Minister to end the climate wars. The leader of the opposition wrote to the PM outlining a new bipartisan approach on energy policy. Critics have dubbed the letter as a surrender note. Around 700 jobs will be lost as Woolworths automates key logistics facilities in Sydney and in Melbourne. The supermarket giant says the new facilities will allow faster restocking and provide a wider range for customers. Woolies will now have to close 3 of its warehouses. Twitter has taken action against US President Donald Trump once again, the social media giant placing a warning notice on a tweet from Trump. The tweet threatened serious force against protesters in the US Capitol. Twitter says it violated the company's policy against abusive behaviour. Novak Djokovic and his wife Elena have tested positive for coronavirus as the fallout from an exhibition tour he arranged in Europe now worsens. The 8-time Australian Open champion confirms he's contracted the virus while defending the now infamous tour played in Serbia and Croatia that has resulted in several positive tests. The weather map now for this Wednesday. Melbourne heading for a sunny top of 16 degrees after morning drizzle and showers. Sydney 16 or 18 degrees. Brisbane 21 degrees, cloudy for Perth, as well as Adelaide atop there at 15. The ASX, as we mentioned, has been on the up since the open. About, 0.3%. It's gone up and down a little bit following its lead from Wall Street. Have a look at the Dow now there too, which was up, as we mentioned. Nasdaq has only closed down twice over the past month thus far. So good news out of Wall Street and across the markets as they hope for some positivity despite what's happening for us here in Melbourne. For now, it's back to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
You caught me unaware there, Aaron. Thank you very much. Still trying to get across this ABC stories to give you some more information as we head forward. Coming up on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show, we will be talking to Bruno, who's going to go through the list of his favourite Arnott's biscuits. And I've got to tell you, I am not happy. His number one is absolutely outrageous and it must be talked about, and we need to take him on with this atrocity to justice. In the meantime, a very serious issue with Robbo.
Thank you very much, Rob. If you've passed by Wollongong's Crown Street Mall over the past 300 or so days, you would have seen people sleeping out. Now, this is being led by a local doctor who is trying to bring, kind of focus and coverage to the way that refugees are treated. He's calling it the indefinite sleep out to end indefinite, detention for refugees. The man himself joins us now. Javid, welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
We love having you here. It's a really a great treat to talk to you. If I can ask you, though, can you give us an idea of what indefinite detention is and what does it mean for the refugees who are experiencing that?
Well, as the name sort of suggests, indefinite detention is basically the current situation our asylum seekers face, whereby they've come hundreds of thousands of kilometres in some cases, seeking refuge, fleeing war, persecution and death, only to be locked up in worse than prison-like situations and without a known duration sentence. So the hardest thing for these refugees and what tends to break them is the fact that day 1,000 for them may as well be day zero because there is no clear end in sight.
Sure, it's a very powerful message that you're getting across there. I've got to ask you though, and I mean this, very respectfully. You're a doctor, you're earning good money. Why do you take up a cause like this? What's the passion and the power behind it?
Well, I think personally, I find it very frustrating. I've entered a profession which is very much grounded on justice, equality, and to see a country as great as Australia kind of succumb to quite barbaric and very, there's no other word for it really. To see that and to feel helpless is not a nice feeling to deal with. So I guess in some ways this is just an attempt to stand up to that.
We know that change happens slowly. Are there any milestones in particular that you're hoping to reach?
I have definitely realised that change happens slowly. I think I sort of started this quite ambitious and probably a bit naive, but I'm realising that it's going to be a very, very long time. But I think the motivation for it hasn't waned nonetheless. So. Milestones. I guess when I started, I didn't know how long it would have to go for the sleep out. We do have a very clear set of aims as guided by Doctors for Refugees organisation, and what we advocate for is a humane period of processing. Ideally within 45 days. We don't need 7 years to determine whether someone's a legal refugee or not, and to provide, I guess, all the essentials like healthcare and financial support in that time. So that's what we're hoping to achieve, but I have a feeling, or at least at this rate, it's going to take a lot more effort.
Of course, and we can't underestimate, Jav, the wonderful work you've already done. 315 nights you've been sleeping outside to bring, kind of notice to this cause. What's a typical night for you once, you turn your phone off, you get under the sleeping bag and your head hits the pillow? What's a typical night for you out there in the elements?
Well, I mean, when we initially started sleeping out in Wollongong Mall, out in the public, it's definitely quite a daunting experience. You really feel like you feel very vulnerable, basically, not only to the extremes of weather, which we've managed to survive so far, but also to the people that are constantly walking at all hours of the morning. So I think it's that sacrifice of security and a good night's sleep that we hope will carry our message, because there's a lot of words thrown around in politics and media, and I just think, and I hope that actions ultimately speak louder than words.
Joe, I've got to ask you, obviously there's a very checkered past in this country about how people, the greater community feel about refugees. Why, in your own words, why is it important that we care about them? I care about them. This show cares about them. But if you're trying to change minds, why should we care about refugees?
Well, I think because they are us and we are them. And in another setting, we could well be them. And I would hope that if one day, God forbid, if we had to flee our beautiful country for whatever reason, that there would be humane people out there willing to help us out. I think this is just a matter of humanity, really. And I've got so much faith and belief in Australians. I know Australians. I am Australian, and I know we're all good people. And I just feel that we shouldn't be guided by fear. Fear that's, I don't believe, is justified or grounded in much fact. So that's what we're really fighting up against.
You have connections with refugees. What are they feeling at the moment? The people who we've got in detention, what are they saying to you?
It's a mixed bag, actually. On one hand, I really get the sense that these people are completely broken, in a sense. I've been in contact with several refugees who've been detained now for 7 years, and they went in as 18, 20-year-olds and are now 27, and they're the best years of your life, and they've just been robbed. So certainly on one hand, they're just shattered, but on another hand, they hold on to hope, and it's inspiring beyond words what they've endured and how they can still find some positive. So it's been quite moving to be in touch with them in recent times with the upheaval of certain protests like that of which is happening in Queensland at the moment. I think there is a little bit of light for them, and we need to give them that positivity. We really do.
Jav, I've got to say they're very lucky to have someone like you on their side. Thank you very much for your time today. Just quickly, where can we go if we want to help out with your cause? Where can we go to do that?
Well, actually, one thing I really want to get across is that what we're doing is a very small scale thing, and there are so many organisations and amazing individuals across this country fighting this particular battle. So I'm only a small player in it, but if you think that, if you believe in what we're doing, not trying to get into people's faces, not trying to be aggressive, if you want to protest in a peaceful way, feel free to sleep out in your backyard or your balcony. Send us a picture of the collective day. We're called the indefinite sleep out because we have stated that we're going to stay out so long as refugees remain in detention. So if you want to stand in solidarity with refugees, it's a really good and peaceful avenue to hopefully inspire and spark change.
Oh, Jav, you're a wonderful man. We really appreciate your time. We understand you've got to get back to your normal day job at the Wollongong Hospital there. So thank you very much for taking the time, and we hope that many people will support you.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your support as well, getting the word out.
Absolutely, Jav. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Head to facebook.com/the indefinite sleep out. That's /the indefinite sleep out. Rob?
Sorry, Robbo, could you just do that again for us? I accidentally muted you after we said I hit the wrong button.
All right.
And I thought I was muting our guest and I muted you, so my full apologies.
That's all good, all good. I'm just saying, if you want to get involved with what Jav's doing in the team, just go to facebook.com/the indefinite sleep out. Rob?
Fabulous. It was even better the second time, I'm sure. Okay, now it's time for our random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
All right, today we're taking you to Lake Tahoe. It's a partly cloudy day today with a top of 29 degrees after a low of a chilly 8 degrees. How beautiful is that as the sun goes down in California? Oh, I'm loving that. Bit cloudy, as we said, but let's have a look. We've got time for a couple of quick feedbacks. First one is from Mary, the forefront issue, and this is about the police force and our feelings and treatment of the police. The forefront issue is the unethical force of the police rather than singularly about race. No one hates a bad cop more than a good cop. Yes, I love that. Mary also says, years ago I believe there was controversy around the Milky Bar and the Milky Bar kid, Jamie says. Was that right? I didn't know that. Mary also said, though, call red skins sunburn sticks. That's an interesting idea. And this one from Jeanette that I think sums up every viewer of the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. No, Rob, not good Scottish. Okay, then, Jeanette, I don't know what you're talking about. That sounds like bloody brilliant Scottish to me. But I'll leave it in your hands, I will.
Stop,
No?
please, stop.
I can't help myself. I love doing my
I know you
accents,
can't.
and they're just so bad. And Ben, I know you're a big fan of them.
I think my face.
It's hurting my ear. I think my ears are bleeding. Sorry. Bloody hell.
Why is people so unkind? I just don't get it. All right. Time for my...
Please bring Bruno on.
I'm getting there. Time for one of my personal highlights of the week. It's where we get to talk to Bruno Boucher, who talks about anything and everything. Hello, Bruno.
Hello, Bruno.
Hey guys, coming to you live from a basement somewhere. I'm really
you're in
sorry
the
about
bunker.
that hideous. Yeah, I'm in a bunker. There's just a lot of things happening upstairs, so I thought I'll go down to a bunker. But it's pretty safe and secure down here. There's a really good wine collection, a lot of spirits, and it's fantastic because this used to be where I am. It used to be an old strip club, and this was the kind of dodgy room. So it's kind of cool. in here.
Oh, mate, that sounds like some fascinating history. But I've got to say, when I first saw you there, I thought, oh, he's in trouble with Carl. He's been sent down to the bunker.
No,
That wasn't a no. That wasn't a no.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was just a lot of laugh.
It was a nervous laugh.
Yeah, it was
Now, Bruno, I have to say, I love your lists in so many ways, but you have completely stuffed up today's lists. You are talking about Arnott's biscuits.
Oh, now listen. Obviously, I love doing lists. I live for making lists. And I can't believe that, in the 12 months that I've been doing lists, I never sat down and did the Arnott's assorted range. And within the Arnott's assorted range, you've got family and you've got cream. So cream's sort of like your Monte Carlos, and the family, it's what you'd consider the more run-of-the-mill ones like Nice and arrowroot and milk coffee, etc., etc. So I guess we probably begin with you complaining, Rob. What's your problem?
Well, I don't want to spoil the winner, but if we can bring up the bottom tier, because one of my all-time favourites, your cat vomit tier, you've put in what I don't even know what it's called, the shortbread cream. Now, this is one of my favourites as a kid. That was the first one always to be gone from the packet first because everybody wanted the shortbread cream. I didn't know what it was called. I just knew I loved to pull it apart, lick the cream in the middle, and then suck on the biscuit.
Are we still talking about the shortbread cream here?
Yeah.
Now listen, the shortbread cream, there is nothing more boring than a shortbread cream. In fact, out of the whole, what I don't understand, Arnott's does make fantastic biscuits, but what the hell were they thinking with this one? The shortbread is bland. You don't even really know what you're getting in that center. All right, it's gooey. What is it? It's a little bit sugary, I suppose. But it's boring and it's too crumbly. It's not an enjoyable experience. It's bland. I don't know what kind of childhood you had where you thought that this was the most exciting thing ever the shortbread creams, they were gone within seconds. Yeah, were they? They were probably gone because your parents threw them out because they were so...
No, we grew up poor, Bruno, and so anything with a bit of cream was just like heaven on a stick. So, we loved...
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Here we go.
Wow.
It's a story moment. Yeah.
I
And look,
stand
the one that
by.
no one's gonna
I
have
think
any-
you're completely wrong. And I don't want to get to spoilers, but if you want to talk plain, what you've put at the top is disastrous. But let's go to the next level, and you can talk us through how you got that one wrong too.
No, that's great. I mean, look, yeah, we do have the butternut snap, but when we move on to pleb tier, there's 3 of them. Let's just concentrate on the big ticket item here, the Monte Carlo. Go on,
right.
gasp, get angry. I'll just sit back and let you guys have a bit of a tantrum. Go.
Yeah, I've got to say, Monte Carlo is a wonderful biscuit. It's it's chewy. It takes you on a journey when you eat it. And I will be accepting any kind of Monte Carlo donations, artists, if you're watching. But
Now I've got to tell
why
you.
did you put the Monte Carlo there, though, Bruno?
Okay, I'll tell you. And by the way, on Facebook, I was speaking with Manu about my placement of the Monte Carlo, and he actually agreed with what I said. And this is it. The Monte Carlo, sure, the center of it is great. It's a mix of this vanilla cream and jam. Hey, it's really, really good. But the taste gets lost in the 2 thick layers of biscuit. And you can hardly really taste it because of that thickness. Now, what I told Manu is, well, listen, why wouldn't they look at reinventing the Monte Carlo by pulling back on those 2 big biscuits and instead having a biscuit that's more along the lines of what you'd see in an orange slice or an Oreo, a round one that's not quite as overpowering. You would then have the greatest biscuit on earth. In fact, I wonder if next time I'm on, if I should genetically modify, like Frankenstein it, and then I can show you guys what would be the greatest biscuit in the world. But the Monte Carlo in its current form is trash.
Jeez.
Bruno, is there some liquid soap in that bunker? Because I just want you to put it in your mouth and wash your mouth out, please. But if you can't find it, secondly, who's this?
Oh, hello.
Yes.
I'm coming, Bruno.
Yes.
I'm on the way.
But Bruno, who's Manu? Does he know anything about food? Who is this guy?
Manu, he's just some Frenchman that carries on. By the way, I heard that Manu's not even French. Matt Preston was the one that pulled me aside one day and says, just so you know, Manu's not actually from France at all. It's all a scam. So,
controversial.
That'll do best.
Yep.
To get the biscuit.
Should we kick it up to the Adam Sandler tier, which is the meh tier? Who cares? No one's going to be passionate about these biscuits either way. Yes, we've got the orange slice and milk coffee. Boring.
Scotch finger. No, how can the Scotch finger not be on the God tier? The Scotch finger, you get to break it apart. You can share it, but you'll probably have both, and you can put them in your mouth. It's small enough that you can suck on them. I
Rob,
don't have a
biscuit
suck, and you can dunk it. Oh.
No, I get it. And look, Rob, you always tell me privately that 1 finger is great, but 2 fingers are better. I get it. I understand, right? But let me tell you, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick.
Oh, Bruno, that's great. I'm on the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Sorry, Bruno.
Oh, what a bit of that.
Whatever. The Scotch finger sucks. Yada yada yada.
Ben,
It does suck.
you've been very quiet here. Are there any of these biscuits you think are on the wrong tier?
Oh, yeah, no, I just think that Bruno's just worked out this magical thing on how to troll Australia, and that I don't even think he cares about the order of biscuits. I think he just presses like this button and they just fly all over the place so that he makes sure that he sort of antagonizes people. You know, I don't genuinely believe that this list gets put together. I reckon, you know what, the test would be to get him to put this list together on a Monday and see whether or not he could put that list together without looking at the list that he put together on the Monday on a Friday and see whether they're the same. Because I reckon they wouldn't be. I reckon he just sits there and goes,
yeah, all right, Mum. All right.
You've been called out.
Karen? Am I a Karen?
You've just been sitting there awkwardly for 5 minutes, just being like, oh, I think he's just a big liar. Oh, all right. Another one.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, do it.
What? Let's go up to the next tier before this segment, the royalty tier, before this segment completely derails. What have we got here?
All right. Guys, the Kingston. I'm not going to get any argument from anyone here saying that the Kingston is pretty darn good. That's a great biscuit. In fact, some of the most amount of feedback that I got outside of the people having a cry about the Monte Carlo was like, the Kingston should have been higher. And look, I kind of accept that. Like, you guys will see what the one God tier biscuit is, but the Kingston is pretty darn good.
I love your royalty tier. I love the Nice biscuit. I love the Choc Ripple. I'm on board with the choices there.
Very good. Ben, how do you feel about it? Go on. Or is it, you know? I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds just like me. What a great impersonation. Academy Awards for all. Now, I would say that the chocolate
whiten your
biscuit...
teeth? How white are your teeth?
You know, Bruno, do you know what's really funny? It's really funny. My mum watches this show with her partner, and I often say to Mum, oh, what does John think of the show? And the only bit of feedback I ever get is John's jealousy of how white my teeth are. These teeth look much whiter on the show, and we can thank Rob's wife, Amanda. I think she's got a filter on my face. I don't actually look like this in real life. I'm basically a Pixar movie. Anyway.
God tier. God tier. Oh, sorry.
Looks so good.
I love the chocolate ripple cake. So I love the chocolate ripple biscuit. I think that needs to be bumped up to the top. But the shock is, you've really only got one biscuit at the top, haven't you?
There's only one biscuit at the top. I mean, listen, I'm so excited about this biscuit. I can't wait to present it to you. Guys, give it up for the milk arrowroot.
Now, Bruno, you talked about boring before. You called other biscuits boring. There is nothing to this biscuit.
Now, listen, what you're missing are the subtleties of the milk arrowroot. So it's made with... Do you guys even know what arrowroot is? You probably don't. So it's made with arrowroot flour, and it is just... It's subtle, okay? It's not carrying on. It's not trying to woo you in with a gimmick of like, oh, you can snap it in two, or look, there's a creamy center. No. It stands firm and tall on its own 2 feet. And let me tell you, have you ever... eaten a milk arrowroot with margarine or butter?
Yes, definitely.
Because if you did, you wouldn't be arguing with me
good.
right now.
But don't you have a problem with the biscuit when you need to actually add something to it?
Well, no, because what I'm saying is this biscuit on its own is God tier. But with butter and margarine, it's what's above God tier? I mean, the infinite universe tier, or I don't really know. I mean, without it getting into a debate about theology, is there any greater?
Well, it's really funny because I don't think I've ever heard of that biscuit before. Like, when I was looking at this, you did reveal this yesterday on your Facebook. I'd never heard of this biscuit. I do want to try it, but by the time it slipped 2 fingers in, I probably forgot anyway.
Can I?
Ben, that's spoken like someone that's never been to a retirement village or an office or
a church hall.
You sound very well travelled.
Bruno, I'll tell you how the proof is in the pudding that you got this list completely wrong. And I love and respect you. You know this is my favourite segment each week. I always say that. But when these biscuits, when the family pack is handed out, it's always the arrowroot that is left at the end. All the cream ones, and I don't like Monte Carlo, but they're all gone. My cream ones, the chocolate ones, the Kingston is the God one. The arrowroot is always there, and everyone's there's just the arrowroot left.
You're looking at it the wrong way, you see. Your family look at you as, oh, Rob the provider, Rob the alpha male. So what they do is they leave you with the greatest of the biscuits as a sign
No, that's not my family at all, mate.
respect.
That is not my family.
I tried.
Bruno, you are a good man, and we love your lists. I can't wait to see what you come up with next week. Thank you, mate.
Thanks,
See
Bruno.
You guys. Have a good afternoon.
See you, mate.
Bye-bye.
You too. See you. Thank you.
Well, now it's time to find out what's happening in the world of entertainment with Ben. And Ben, the former host of the Daily Edition, is back in the headlines.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Ryan Fallon is back in the headlines, and I think we've all been waiting to find out exactly how Channel 7 was going to handle their announcement of this. There was 2 announcements yesterday with the Channel 7 2 programs acknowledging what's happened. We've got a little video of that now. Check it out.
Before we go on, I want to take the opportunity to address Ryan Fallon's absence from the program. Ryan will not be returning to the Daily Edition due to the serious allegations that have been made against him. Seven presenter Ryan Phelan has been charged over an alleged domestic violence incident after voluntarily going to a police station. He was charged with assault occasioning bodily harm against his partner. Ryan Phelan won't be returning to Seven.
Yeah, well, I think we're still gathering all the facts, and there's definitely that innocent till proven guilty. The fact that he did go down to the police station and turn himself in would mean that he is, you know, obviously quite responsible for the crime. I think it's really disappointing. I think the turn of events being that he was fired on a Thursday and, you know, finished up on a Friday and then, you know, had to deal with his own, you know, with the truth of that whole thing. I think it's really hard. And I said this yesterday, which I think is still relevant, and it'll always be, and that is, you know, talking about mental health issues is really important. So, look, if anything, the silver lining out of this could be, you know, making sure that we are talking to our men and breaking down some stereotypes. Rob, what do you have to say?
Mate, the one thing I thought was interesting was that his partner came out and said she still loves him, and also said obviously being made redundant last week had a major effect on him, and she said this has never happened before, this isn't him. She went to the police based on what her daughter had told her to do. It's a very difficult situation when we get into these family things, isn't it? And I would say, though, not made harder when you're just ripped off air like that. And this guy hasn't gone to court, hasn't gone to trial or anything like that, hasn't been found guilty of anything. So it's just messy all round. It's just a bad way to end a job, really.
Well, it's a really bad situation, but I mean, this is not a news story. I mean, if you talk to anyone that has been at the hands of domestic violence, these people aren't not in love with the person that has committed the crime.
Yeah,
the common
right.
story is that these people who are being abused are usually in a really tricky predicament, really, because the person that they usually love the most is the person who is at fault. So look, this particular story is not, like, to me, with the way everyone's going, oh, it's shocking that it's someone that we know. Oh, it's shocking it's a TV presenter. You know, domestic violence in this country is a huge epidemic. And so if this, and that's why I say about the silver lining, you know, if this gives us an opportunity to highlight what's going on, I think that's for the better. Robbo, what do you have to say about this?
No, Ben, I you know, there are really no winners in this situation at all. So it's a very sad story. Moving on, though, Seven is also making headlines with another major announcement. What can you tell us?
Yeah, yesterday actually, I think it was this morning the announcement was made, and this really upsets me because I think local content is always very important. Channel 7 has made the announcement that the local afternoon program of news will actually now be being produced and made out of Melbourne. This has come after, you know, other networks have shut down their afternoon shows, just proving that the budgets are not really strong enough to provide this regional content. You know, I think this is going to be just the start of things, to be honest with you. It's not the end of it, because I think local content is at risk of being abolished from the country. And I think when we come back from this pandemic, I think it's going to be a really important thing for the government to incentivise stories being told in regional areas. So disappointing news for Adelaide, and I can imagine how difficult it would feel to be getting your news from a different state.
Yeah, but Ben, it's interesting that I broke this story on the TV Black Box website last night, and Seven have actually not confirmed it officially. I've spoken to a lot of people behind the scenes, so my sources are rock solid. It's interesting that over 12 hours later, they still haven't confirmed, they still haven't provided a statement, but the story is factually correct. And yeah, it's sad to see two presenters given the chop, two producers given the chop, and they are saying that, and moved to Melbourne, as you said. It's also interesting that they do say, I have been told, that other newsrooms won't be affected, but there's no doubt Seven are pulling back everywhere. And this is what we talked about before with the ABC. But look, moving on, and off the back of the announcement of 30 Rock's one-off special in July, which you brought us, I think, yesterday, Tina Fey has announced a permanent change in their streaming lineup of repeats. What's going on?
Well, as we all would know, if you're a big fan of 30 Rock, that there are 4 episodes where they do include blackface. These episodes have been very disrespectful and very upsetting to a lot of people who watch the show. And Tina Fey very smartly has come out saying that those episodes have been deleted from the streaming services. Interestingly enough, those streaming services are yet to pull their content across all of America. However, in Australia, Amazon Australia and Stan had already pulled those episodes early last week. So look, I think it was an initiative that Australia took upon itself before Tina Fey made this announcement. But as the day goes on before the end of the week, I would say that those episodes would be very hard to find, and rightfully so. Rob, what do you think?
Well, Ben, yes, very, very big deal and a lot to digest with that. But we are quickly running out of time. Let's end on a high note. TikTok, what have you got for us today?
Yes, that's right. I do enjoy a TikTok of the day. I'm always looking for something a little bit hilarious. Yesterday, I had that Batman one, which I couldn't stop laughing about. So, look, I just would like to tell you, this is an example of Rob and Robbo and myself as we prepare the show. And I'll give you a tip. I'm the guy at the end.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, that one was Amanda.
No, that's all of us, I think. All right, we've got to go. We've got 3 seconds left. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo show.